The Boilermakers dominate in week one, and Barry Odom's first game as the Purdue Boilermakers head coach. They get it done. Post-game show starts right now.
You are Locked On Boilermakers, your daily podcast on the Purdue Boilermakers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the post-game show for week one. Purdue gets it done against Ball State and in great fashion at that dominating fashion. Purdue was able to get it done. And the big storyline of today was Ryan Brown. Going into this game, Ryan Brown was announced the starter 2 weeks back, but we didn't quite know what to expect. We saw last year against Illinois really dazzled in that game, and today was a lot more of the same. Throws are 311 yards on the game, smashing all those overs. And when you look at what Purdue wanted to do, what they wanted to do going into this game, they wanted to rely on Ryan Brown, and a lot of that comes down to Devin Mockabee. They open it up in play action, holding call. Devin Mockabee runs it for 10 yards, and then the big play of the game that gets us started off right. In the first 40 seconds, Ryan Brown fires over the middle to Armad Branch for a big touchdown to get Purdue on the board. And I just want to talk about Ryan Brown, the way that he played today, because what he was able to do really kind of shows that he's the starter. There was some debate throughout the offseason of whether Ryan Brown or Malachi Singleton would kind of fit in as the starter. And even going into this game, there was an expectation that maybe Malachi Singleton gets into that game. He did get in at the end, but it was only because Purdue was up 31 points, and that was because of Ryan Brown. Ryan Brown played so good today, both through the air and on his feet. He was able to improvise at times and really make stuff happen in the pocket. Whenever that pocket did collapse, we saw Braden Joyner goes out towards the end of the second half, and that kind of slowed down Purdue's momentum a little bit. But whenever that pocket started to collapse, Ryan Brown was still able to make plays. He had a great game today. 311 yards. He throws for 3 touchdowns on the night, or on the game rather. 2 touchdowns and then 1 on his feet. So Ryan Brown is that guy. Ryan Brown is here. Ryan Brown is now for Purdue. And obviously you beat Ball State in the fashion that you beat him in today. And there's a lot of speculation. Obviously last year we were kind of in a little bit of the same scenario where Purdue beats Indiana State and then goes on an 11-game losing streak. But Ball State, although they're not the highest quality opponent, they are an FBS team. They're in the MAC conference, and they're a little bit better than what Purdue played last year with Indiana State. So obviously we can't overreact too much, but this is a huge win for Purdue. Going into this offseason, Purdue didn't get the respect that they deserve. People didn't really think that Purdue was going to have a great year, and it's still early, but this was a great step in that correct direction. There's been a lot of talk. Hey, Purdue's going to be the bottom of the Big Ten. And after seeing some of these Big Ten teams play, whether that be Thursday, earlier today, last night, honestly, Purdue played better than any of these other Big Ten teams have this whole dang weekend. Purdue they come out firing, and they get 14 quick points, courtesy of Ryan Brown and Armad Branch. We talked about how that Ryan Brown, Armad Branch connection is going to be so pivotal to what Purdue does this year, and that shines super early. Not only did Armad Branch catch that ball over the middle and take it all the way to the house, but then on that next drive, Purdue's defense gets a 3-and-out, and then he catches it one-handed on the sideline. That was a heck of a grab, and it sets up Purdue right back in the same situation they were in, get it all the way up into the red zone, and then Ryan Brown is able to take it into the end zone on his feet. So we see how good Armad Branch is early on. He had, I believe he had 101 yards, so he breaks that 100-yard threshold today. Great game for Armad Branch, who, even though he only had 3 receptions, he made them count, and that's so good. Obviously, Morsetti, he was out today, so we knew that these receivers were kind of going to have to step up for Purdue, and they sure did. Not only Armad Branch, but Michael Jackson III. He also had a great day at receiver, catching a touchdown and then does his Michael Jackson dance in the end zone after that one. So we have a lot of excitement here for Purdue. There's a lot of excitement in this game, and honestly, the defense was just as good as the offense. We talked about it in the pregame show, how a guy like Khalil Kelly for Ball State is going to stretch out that offense. What they want to do is they really want to run the ball with their quarterback, and that's kind of a unique look that Mike Yurmavich presents to Ball State in his first year as head coach over there. When you have a guy like Khalil Kelly, who he played for Ball State last year, but wasn't necessarily a quarterback for them. He played all over the field, really kind of a versatile type of guy, a utility guy. Um, but he gets it done on his feet, and Purdue's able to stop that. They were able to limit that for the most part. There were some times where he was able to kind of get out of the pocket, especially towards the start of the second half, the end of the first half. Ball State was able to get going, but they missed 2 field goals on the night. So obviously you can't make the field goals. You can't get into the end zone, and you're not going to win games. And then especially with how dominant Purdue's offense was tonight. And a guy that's not going to get a lot of recognition after this game is Devin Mockbee. Obviously, a senior running back. He's going to be a big story this year. And with all that Ryan Brown did tonight, obviously Ryan Brown deserves the recognition for that. We need to be talking so much more about Ryan Brown. But what Devin Mockbee is able to do, he had over 100 all-purpose yards in this game. He had a touchdown. But when you think about that play action that Purdue elected to run in that first drive of the game, those 2 plays where Ryan Brown stepped back and passed. Obviously, there was the holding call on the one, but Armand Branch was able to get open on the second one. That only opens up because of Devin Mockbee. That 10-yard run on the right side, that opens up the play action for Ryan Brown to stretch the field and find Armand Branch. And that's what we've talked about. Obviously, Purdue isn't going to have the talent necessarily quite yet because they bring in so many guys, 50-plus guys in the transfer portal, over 70 new additions to this team this year. You're not going to have the pieces ready. But when you're able to game plan, when you're able to bring in a guy like Devin Mockbee, who's able to run the ball the way he's able to do, when you bring in a guy like Ryan Brown, who I was so impressed with today, that's how you win ball games. And that's what we saw today. So Ryan Brown, 311 yards. He's going to get all the recognition. And what people don't talk enough about is how composed Ryan Brown was today. Not only was he making the throws, not only was he extending the plays, but anytime the ball left his hand, I had trust that Ryan Brown was going to make a play. And for the most part, he was able to make the play. He was very efficient on the day too, throwing 18 for 26. So not many incompletions on the day. Great game for Ryan Brown. We can't talk enough about the way that he played today. Armand Branch, that's going to be explosive. If he's able to make plays happen, like he was able to make them happen, if Ryan Brown is able to find him consistently, then we're going to be in for a big year for Purdue. So obviously, Purdue gets it done today, 31-0 over Ball State. They get the shutout too, which is so great. Ball State did have a couple opportunities, 2 missed field goals, opens up the opportunity for Purdue to kind of pitch that shutout. But when you think about just everywhere, I can't talk about it enough. Everywhere was good for Purdue today. You think about what Barry Odom wanted to build, what he wanted to bring in to this week 1 matchup. We've been talking all offseason about Barry Odom has really stressed wanting to build an identity, wanting to build a team that can kind of overcome where we were last year. There was a lot of dysfunction. There wasn't a whole lot of coordination when it came to the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball for that matter. But both sides were really good today. Going back to that first quarter, you open up with that Armand Branch touchdown. And then what does the defense do? They get a 3 and out. And then Purdue gets the ball back. They score again. And then what does the defense do? They get another 3 and out. And the linebackers were so good today for Purdue. Sanders Ellis was there a couple of times, but I was really impressed with 2 guys, Manny Powell and Charles Carrera. They made plays all over the field today. Whenever Khalil Kelly was trying to get out of the pocket, they really limited that for the most part. There was one where Manny Powell on a blitz on 3rd down, he gets into the backfield and just absolutely kills Kelly. And that stopped Ball State's momentum. So that defense was just as good today as the offense was. And that's something that we need to see for Purdue this year. Both sides of the ball were excellent. And that's what leads to a 31-0 win today. So big win for Purdue. We can't get too excited. Still got to handle business going on next week to Southern Illinois. That one's going to be a night game. So that's going to be really excited. And I do want to talk about this. Ross-Ade, the fans that packed Ross-Ade today, that needs to be talked about more because after 1-11 last year, they're like, I'm not expecting a full house today. And there was a full house. That stadium was packed. It was so loud. And Purdue wins for that stadium. And the fans at the Ross A Brigade, needs to be thanked for that one because they really came out. They supported their Boilermakers and they get the win because of that. So then we talk about the domination of the Boilermakers, how well they played today against Ball State. But if we think about Barry Odom, this one has to mean a lot for Barry Odom. And I know that it does. I can see the emotion on his face after that post-game interview. The way that Barry Odom brought his team in, the way that he's prepared this team in the offseason has created the perfect opportunity for them to find success in week one. And it needs to be stated, all these Big Ten teams, you can tell it's week one for a lot of them. Wisconsin was in a 3-0 battle. Thursday night, Minnesota was battling with Buffalo. And then Miami of Ohio was in that one. A lot of close games, a lot of Big Ten teams that didn't necessarily win the way that they should have. And when you look at Purdue, they won the way that they should have. The line was set at 17 points, and they blew that out of the water, winning by 31 points. So they cover that spread real easily, and they win in great fashion. So much needs to be talked about for this win today for Purdue. Such an exciting win, and it just builds so much excitement going in for the rest of this year. In the offseason, honestly, there wasn't a ton of excitement for the most part. Everyone's kind of been excited about Barry Odom. They've been excited to see the new pieces, but there's been a lot of ambiguity surrounding this team, whether that be Ryan Brown at quarterback. We didn't necessarily know how well he was going to play. We saw him against Illinois, but against Oregon, kind of struggled a little bit. And then going into this offseason, when he transfers out to North Carolina, he gets into that quarterback battle with Malachi Singleton. We saw that there were a lot of kind of turnover issues in the offseason. That's kind of what kept that quarterback battle going a little bit longer than necessarily what it should have. But today, I saw all the right things from Ryan Brown. He didn't turn over the ball. When you think about making high IQ plays, Ryan Brown is the type of guy to look for that big hitter. We saw that early. We saw him always looking to stretch that deep ball. And that's perfectly fine. When you have a quarterback that can stretch the deep ball and be consistent with that, that's a key to victory. But not only is Ryan Brown good at that, he makes the high IQ plays. He doesn't make risky throws. He doesn't run when he doesn't need to run. He does the right things. He stretches out the pocket when it needs to be stretched out. And he just makes high IQ plays. There were a couple times when even on third down, when he was in the they were in the red zone, third down, he could have stretched that out. He could have launched it into the end zone, but he didn't. He ran, stopped, dived, and then take your points. In that type of game, you can't risk a turnover. And that's going to be so key to what Purdue's going to do this year. You have to be very smart with what you do. And when you have a quarterback that is such a high IQ guy like Ryan Brown is, that's a key to success for Purdue. We've been talking about how you have to limit the turnovers if you're Purdue this year, because you don't have that margin of error that some other teams in the Big Ten may have, where you're able to turn the ball over and then you're an explosive enough team to where that won't necessarily bite you in the end. But Purdue did a great job today. They didn't turn the ball over. No interceptions for Ryan Brown, and just great on all sides of the ball. I can't stress that enough. Even special teams was solid. There was one return that Ball State had. They got it out past the 30. But when you talk about the pursuit on special teams, guys were flying at that ball. They were flying for the ball carrier, and they were making sure that they did a good job. And then the punting unit, that was such another great thing that I saw for Purdue today. Didn't punt the ball a whole lot, obviously, because all the scoring that you did. But when they did, they were able to set Ball State up inside their 5 once, I think at the 6-yard line on one of those drives. And I mean, when you're able to do that, when you're able to play great football on all facets of the game, you're going to be successful. And we saw that today. A 31-0 score is the reward for that. But it's so exciting. From my perspective, it's so exciting for Purdue fans because we're in this new era of football. We're so different. It feels like such a different team than last year. They talk about, hey, Purdue won that first game last year in a great margin of victory. But the vibes around that program last year, even after that win, don't match the way that I'm feeling, the way that people are feeling after this game, because they did it in such great fashion. It was like the perfect football game for week one. Obviously, it was Ball State, not the highest quality of opponent. You have teams out there that are playing really big games. Ohio State versus Texas is going on right now. We'll see Miami, Notre Dame, LSU, Clemson. And Purdue, thankfully, doesn't have to play that game week one. And that's kind of a luxury for them because, like I said, you got to be cohesive. There's been so many turnovers, or not turnovers, but so much turnover on the roster. When you think about going into this year from last year, you need that game where you can kind of set your roster up for success, set up what you want to do. And we saw that for today for Purdue. And I think that this will be a great game, a great opportunity to kind of get these guys on the same page going forward. The only thing that I did see today that was kind of hurtful to Purdue is Braden Joyner goes out starting center at the end of the first half, and then that pocket kind of collapsed on Ryan Brown. And obviously that speaks to how good Braden Joyner is, but throughout the course of a season, you're not going to have the five guys that you want at the offensive line all the time. That's just kind of the nature of the game that we play. It's football. You're going to get injuries. You're going to have guys that have to go in and out. So we do need to figure out a way where we can bring in these backups. We can still have a cohesive unit on the offensive line, because that's something I didn't see today. Whenever the Ball State pressure kind of got there when Braden Joyner wasn't out of the game, Ryan Brown really had no time to really operate. And that's something that needs to be fixed. That's something that kind of just works out with time. You get guys more reps, you get guys more spots at different positions, and it'll all work itself out. But overall, today, great game for Purdue, great win, 31-0. You get your shutout, and just so much can be spoken for how well Purdue played today. I'm so happy with the way that they played. I'm so happy that they kind of brought that energy into week one, because I was a little bit nervous that it would start out slow, and you don't want to keep a team like that in a close game. We saw that earlier in the week. We saw that yesterday. We saw that. We're going to see that today, but you can't keep these mid-major teams in the game, because that's a dangerous formula. You want to start early, you want to start fast, and you want to maintain that lead. And we saw Purdue do that today. They found success, they maintained a lead, and they got the victory. So Barry Odom, he starts his Purdue career out 1-0, and probably the best debut you could have possibly hoped for. I'm so happy for how this team played today. I'm happy for how they played for Barry Odom, and I'm so happy with the fan turnout at Ross-Ade. Hopefully they bring it next week, night game against Southern Illinois. That'll be a fun one. Purdue should win that one. I'm really going to be excited for that one. Should be in attendance over there for that night game. And then going into week 3 against USC. That is one thing I want to hit on before we head out today. Today, we didn't see the DBs really get pressured a whole lot. Khalil Kelly didn't want to throw the ball, really wanted to get it done on his feet, and they found a little bit of success on that. But I want to see the DBs be challenged. I hope that we see that next week against Southern Illinois. I hope that these DBs are able to get spots, get pressured, get thrown at, and really just be able to be locked down defenders. Because going into week 3 against USC, Jaden Mayava isn't going to be that type of guy. He's going to be explosive. He's going to throw the ball down the field, and he's going to test those DBs on every single play. So we need to be better. Not better, but we need to see those DBs succeed and better them. Just kind of getting pressure. That's how you get better. You take reps, you get better, you improve. So I expect those DBs to get tested a little bit better next week, and I hope that they can really step up going into week 3 against USC. There's a lot of turnover in that defensive backcourt. 7 new guys get brought in, but overall, not much to complain about today for Purdue. They played a great game. They got the win, shutout, 31-0, and what a start to the Barry Odom era. We'll be on here, Locked On Boilermakers, all week, previewing next week against Southern Illinois. We'll talk this game a little bit more, what I saw, what I expect to change, and what I expect to continue. I don't think a whole lot needs to change, because this was a great recipe for success. Great game today. Ryan Brown is that guy. 3 more years of Ryan Brown. You got him all this year, just a redshirt sophomore. What can he be at Purdue? Oh my gosh. I love Ryan Brown. I was so very impressed with him today. We'll have all that content for you. Make sure to check out the show weekdays, Locked On Boilermakers. We're every day here for you guys on the Locked On Podcast Network. If this is the first time you guys are hearing of me, make sure to check out the show. We push out a lot of great content over here for you guys. Thank y'all for joining us in the Purdue Boilermakers are 1-0. And as always, boiler up, hammer down.